I want you to close your eyes for a second. We are going to do a little visualization exercise to start things off today. Picture this. You are 5 years old.
Okay.
You are small. You're completely vulnerable. And it is the middle of the night. You are crouching on the cold linoleum floor of your kitchen in a farmhouse in the mountains.
Already that is an incredibly terrifying place for a young child to be.
Right. But it gets worse. The lights are all killed. It is pitch black inside. Outside, you can hear crickets, the wind in the pines, just the usual mountain sounds.
Sure.
But inside the house, inside the air is just vibrating with tension. You aren't playing hide and seek. You are hiding from the federal government. You are hiding from the feds.
Wow.
And in your mind, in your little 5-year-old brain, you can see exactly what is going to happen next. You visualize your mother standing up. Maybe she is just getting a glass of water from the tap.
Yeah.
You see her silhouette backlit by the moonlight coming through the window. And then just absolute chaos. A shot rings out, a white flash, the roar of gunfire.
She falls.
She falls. And in this vision, she is holding a baby. And you, the 5-year-old, you leap forward to catch the baby as your mother hits the floor.
I mean, that is an incredibly violent, incredibly specific and traumatic image for a kindergartner to hold in their head. It sounds like a scene from a war movie, not a childhood memory.
It is visceral. It is absolutely terrifying. And here's the thing that just completely floored me when I started digging into the source material for our deep dive today.
What is that?
None of it ever happened.
It was entirely a phantom memory.
Exactly. That scene, which was the foundational memory of Tara Westover's childhood, the thing she believed was completely real for years, was a total fabrication.
But she did not just make it up out of thin air.
No, not at all. It was a visualization. It was a scenario that her father had drilled into her. He was so obsessed with the Ruby Ridge standoff. He was so convinced the government was coming to kill them that he essentially downloaded this trauma directly into his daughter's brain.
Until she basically claimed it as her own lived experience.
Exactly. And that right there is the perfect, if terrifying, entry point into the deep dive we are doing today. We are looking at the memoir Educated by Tara Westover.
And look, if you have heard of this book, and honestly, it was absolutely everywhere when it came out, you probably know the basic elevator pitch.
The survivalist girl in the mountains.
Right. Girl grows up in a survivalist family in the mountains of Idaho, never goes to school, works in a dangerous junkyard, somehow teaches herself algebra, and ends up with a PhD from Cambridge University.
Which is, I mean, it is a great hook. It is the classic rags to riches or ignorance to enlightenment arc. It sells a lot of books.
It really does. But our mission for today is not just to applaud her for getting a degree or learning how to use a graphing calculator. We need to go much, much deeper than the academic accolades.
Yes, absolutely.
We are using this book as a forensic case study. We need to look at how a parent's paranoia can completely overwrite a child's reality. We need to talk about epistemic violence.
Epistemic violence. I really like that term.
Yeah, it is the violence done to your ability to actually know what is true.
Oh.
And we will explore the brutal, almost physical cost of severing ties with your family just to keep your own sanity.
It sounds heavy, but as we get into the details of her life, I think you, the listener, will see it fits perfectly. But before we get to the philosophy, we have to ground this story physically. We have to go to Buck's Peak.
We do. The setting here is effectively a character in the story all on its own. We are in rural Idaho. And this is not the resort version of Idaho with ski lodges and hot cocoa.
No, not at all.
This is rugged, deeply isolated country.
Yeah.
The family lives right at the base of this mountain, Buck's Peak. It is dominating. There is a rock formation on the face of the mountain that looks like a woman's body. They call it the Indian princess.
And the mythology around that mountain is just fascinating. Her father tells her the princess is always watching them, waiting for the snows to melt. It feels very Old Testament.
Like the land itself is alive and judging them.
Right, exactly. But the reality on the ground is way less mythical and much more industrial. They live next to a literal junkyard. Her father, Gene, and that is the pseudonym she uses in the book, runs a scrap business.
So your childhood playground is not a swing set. It is rusting cars, jagged steel, vats of fuel, and sorting bins.
And the context of their daily life, it is hard to overstate how off the grid they actually were. I mean,
Right.
we talk about off-grid living as a trend right now, right?
Yeah, van life or homesteading influencers on social media.
Exactly. But this was not a trend. This was an erasure.
Right. And this is a crucial detail. Tara writes that she did not even have a birth certificate until she was 9 years old. Just pause on that for a second.
It is wild.
To the state of Idaho, to the federal government, to the school system, the medical system. Tara Westover did not exist. She was a ghost.
And that was not an accident. That was not some paperwork error. That was the strategy.
Correct. And this brings us to the architect of this entire world, the father, Gene. To understand Tara's journey, you have to understand the sheer gravitational pull of this man.
He is the sun that this entire solar system revolves around.
He really is. He's highly charismatic.
Yeah.
He is incredibly hardworking, but he's deeply, deeply paranoid.
He believes they are living in the days of abomination,
Really?
which is basically the apocalypse, right? The end times.
Yes, but specifically a version where the government and the Illuminati are the active agents of evil. He genuinely believes public schools are government brainwashing camps.
Wow.
He calls doctors sons of perdition. So the family's constantly prepping. And we're not talking about having a few extra cans of soup in the pantry.
No, they are bottling thousands of jars of peaches.
Thousands.
Yeah.
And burying massive gas tanks in the field so they have fuel when the grid eventually goes down. They sleep with head-for-the-hills bags packed with survival supplies.
It is a total bunker mentality.
It is. And it is fueled by real-world events that he reinterprets through this intensely conspiratorial lens. We mentioned Ruby Ridge earlier.
Yeah, we should probably give some context on that.
For those who might not recall, that was a real standoff in 1992 in Idaho between the Weaver family and federal agents. It was a prolonged siege. People died, including the mother and a young child.
And just to be completely impartial here, it was an absolute tragedy and widely recognized as a massive failure of law enforcement.
Yes, a very complex and tragic event. But for Gene, this was not just a news story or a distant tragedy.
No, it was a prophecy.
He identified completely with the Weavers. He saw them as a family who just wanted to homeschool their kids and be left alone, and the government came and slaughtered them for it.
Tara describes her father actually weeping, crying tears of sheer rage and fear when he told the story. He would look at his kids and say, "Next time, it could be us."
Imagine being a child and hearing that from your dad, the person who is supposed to be your ultimate protector, the person who's supposed to tell you there are no monsters under the bed.
And instead, he is telling you that the monsters are completely real, they're wearing badges, and they are actively coming to kill you.
Psychologically, that creates a closed loop. If the outside world is that lethal, then the only safe place is with the father.
Even if the father is erratic.
Exactly. Even if the junkyard is dangerous, it is still safer than the brainwashing camps and the feds outside. It traps the child in his reality because there is no viable alternative.
And his reality was, well, erratic is putting it mildly. There is this one story that really highlights the arbitrary nature of his rules, the butter versus honey incident.
Oh, that one.
This one really stuck with me because it shows how he uses scripture almost like a weapon, or maybe like a magic 8-ball.
It is a perfect example of biblical literalism gone wrong, or rather, literalism filtered through severe mental instability. So Gene is reading from the book of Isaiah one night.
Okay.
He reads this verse, "Butter and honey shall he eat, that he may know to refuse the evil and choose the good."
Which sounds poetic. I have probably heard that verse and just thought, oh, nice, milk and honey.
Right, most people would read that and think, okay, a metaphor for sustenance, or this is about the promised land. Gene reads it as a strict binary instruction.
He decides the verse is saying one of these foods is evil and one is good.
Yes, but the text does not specify which is which, it just lists them. So he prays on it.
I can see where this is going, and I feel really bad for the cows.
He decides that butter, and by extension all dairy, is the evil, and honey is the good.
And he does not just stop eating butter himself, right? He does not just say, I'm going on a diet, guys.
Oh, no. He is the patriarch. His personal revelation is the absolute law. He goes to the fridge and purges everything. Milk, cheese, yogurt, it is all in the trash.
Wow.
And then, and this is the detail that proves the mania, he loads up his truck, drives off, and comes back with 50 gallons of honey.
50 gallons. That is just so much honey.
He literally forces the family to eat spoonfuls of it. It is this erratic, massive swing in lifestyle based on a momentary, highly personal interpretation of a text.
It shows that the rules in this house are not based on logic or safety or even religious tradition.
No, they're based entirely on the whims of the father's paranoia.
And the grandmother. I absolutely love her reaction here. She lives down the hill, right? She is watching this whole madness unfold, and she says, I got some pennies in my purse. They will be all the sense you got.
Grandma was a savage, but it really highlights the deep isolation of the nuclear family. The grandmother thinks he is crazy, but she cannot stop him.
She can make a quip, but she cannot intervene.
Right. He controls the food supply. He controls the entire narrative.
We really have to talk about the mother, Faye,
Yeah.
because in stories like this, it is so easy to paint the mother as just another helpless victim. And she is a victim, clearly, but her role is deeply complicated.
Extremely complicated. She evolves in a way that is really disheartening to read. Faye starts out very submissive. She actually comes from a more normal background, but she gets completely pulled into Jean's orbit
Jean pushes her into this role of being a midwife and an herbalist.
because he does not believe in doctors. So he needs her to literally be the medical system for the community.
Which she is terrified of doing, initially. She does not want the intense responsibility of delivering babies without a medical license.
Terrified. But she does it anyway. She submits. She becomes an unlicensed midwife. She starts making tinctures, essential oils, muscle testing.
And over time, she becomes the primary enabler of his worldview.
She creates the infrastructure that allows them to reject modern medicine entirely. If you get sick, you do not go to the ER. You go to mother's basement for lobelia and skullcap.
And there is a major turning point for her physically, the car accident. And we should probably note, this family is in a lot of car accidents.
So many.
Yeah.
Because Jean drives like an absolute maniac, often at night, often in the dead of winter, and he explicitly does not believe in seatbelts.
Again, the logic is God will protect us, and wearing a seatbelt is a lack of faith.
In one severe crash, the mother suffers a massive brain injury.
Tara describes a very distinct personality shift after this happens.
The symptoms she describes align perfectly with severe frontal lobe damage. The mother has blinding migraines, she retreats to the basement and lives in the dark for days on end. But when she emerges, she is different.
How so?
She becomes less tethered to reality, less capable of critical thought, and much more willing to just go along with Jean's extreme paranoia. It effectively removes the only slight check on his power.
She goes from being a reluctant participant to a full accomplice.
Exactly.
So you have a paranoid father, a brain-injured mother, and a mountain full of scrap metal. Which brings us to what I call the school of the junkyard. Because the book is called Educated, but for the first huge chunk of her life, school was barely even a concept.
There was a thin pretense of homeschooling. The mother would say they were getting a much better education at home than all those brainwashed public school kids.
She would talk about how they were free to learn what they actually wanted.
But the grim reality was just physical labor.
Mhm.
The father saw the children as a captive workforce. He needed bodies to sort scrap, haul heavy steel, and drive loaders.
Tara writes that by the time she was 8, school was basically non-existent. There were some books in the house, the Book of Mormon, some writings of Joseph Smith, maybe a stray history book, but there was zero curriculum.
No math, no science, no structure whatsoever.
And the reason was not just laziness, it was both economic and ideological. To the father, physical work was holy, reading was highly suspicious, unless it was explicitly religious reading.
So if he needed help in the yard, school was canceled. And he always needed help in the yard.
The descriptions of the junkyard are where the book turns into a straight-up horror movie for me. It is not just hard work. It is lethal.
They are throwing jagged steel into bins. They are operating massive cranes with absolutely no training. And then there is this machine called the shear.
The shear, even the name sounds terrifying.
It is a massive hydraulic pair of scissors used to cut thick iron beams. It creates flying shrapnel. It can take an arm off in a fraction of a second.
And they are operating this thing as children with no training, no safety gear.
Safety gear was actively discouraged. And this is a critical psychological point we really need to land on for the listener. Jean viewed safety precautions, like hard hats or seatbelt or safety goggles, as a direct lack of faith.
His logic was, if you trust the Lord, you do not need a shield.
If you wear the shield, you are actively insulting God.
That is just terrifying logic. Because it makes negligence into a virtue, it turns outright recklessness into holiness.
Precisely. It moralizes danger. So when accidents happen, and they happen constantly on that mountain, they are not viewed as accidents. They are viewed as spiritual failures.
Like when her brother Luke gets burned.
Yes. His leg catches fire while he's working with fuel. It is a horrific injury, skin literally melting off. In any normal world, that is an immediate helicopter ride to a burn unit.
Not here.
In the Westover household, he is treated with homeopathic salves on the kitchen table. And the lesson Tara absorbs from this is not that dad is reckless or this place is dangerous.
It is we're tough. Or God is testing us.
Exactly. It normalizes the trauma completely. It makes the pain part of their core identity as the faithful ones. If you get hurt, it is not because the environment is unsafe. it is because you were not listening to the spirit.
It puts the blame entirely on the victim and reinforces the father's ultimate authority.
But then, amidst all this scraping metal and constant fear, we get a glitch in the matrix, a crack in the wall, and his name is Tyler.
Tyler is the third brother, and he is the total outlier. He is different, he loves books, he discovers classical music, specifically cassette tapes of the Mormon Tabernacle Choir.
Tara describes him retreating to his room to listen to this music, and you can just feel him mentally separating from the rest of the clan.
While everyone else is aggressively prepping for the apocalypse, he is in his room listening to choral harmonies.
And that mental separation eventually becomes physical. Tyler announces he is leaving. He's going to go to college.
And Gene just goes nuclear.
He really does. He tells Tyler that college is where they turn you into a socialist and a tool of the devil. He is literally telling his own son that he is walking straight into the mouth of hell.
They will brainwash you. You will lose your immortal soul.
But Tyler goes anyway. He packs his bags and he leaves. And that sheer act of leaving, it plants a vital seed in Tara.
It shows her that leaving is actually possible. Later, when Tara is a teenager and things are getting really, really bad at home, which we will get to, specifically regarding her brother Sean.
Tyler comes back for a visit.
Right. And he sees the situation. He sees how trapped she feels. He looks at Tara and delivers the line that effectively saves her life. He says, "This is the worst possible place for you. Go to college."
The worst possible place for you. That external validation must have been like pure oxygen to her. Because up until then, she probably thought this was the only place for her.
It confirmed that her internal alarm bells were not broken. It validated her reality. But now she has a practical problem, a massive one.
She decides she wants to go to college. But she has no high school diploma. She has no transcript. She's never written an essay in her life. And she does not know algebra.
She does not even know what algebra is. There is this scene where she buys a textbook to study for the ACT. She opens it up and she sees letters, X and Y, mixed in with the numbers.
And she thinks it is a typo.
She thinks she bought the wrong book. She thinks, why are there letters here? This is supposed to be math. She has zero context for abstract mathematical concepts.
This part of the story is like the Rocky training montage of studying, but with a lot more sabotage. She asks her mom for help, but her mom cannot do the math either. And her dad, he actively tries to stop her.
He sees her studying as a massive threat. It is a direct challenge to his authority, so he invents chores. He calls it the Lord's work.
He needs her in the junkyard. Tara, come sort this copper. Tara, drive the loader. Every single hour she spends with a book is an hour she is not under his thumb. It becomes this intense battle of wills.
But she does it. She wakes up early, she stays up late, she teaches herself enough trigonometry and algebra to pass the ACT, which honestly is a testament to raw, staggering intelligence.
We really have to give her credit here. To bridge that immense gap completely alone is genius-level stuff.
It really is. She gets an adequate score, and she gets accepted into BYU, Brigham Young University. And this is where the genre of the book dramatically shifts. We go from survivalist thriller to stranger in a strange land.
She arrives at BYU, and she might as well have landed on Mars. Or rather, she is the Martian. She has absolutely no cultural reference points.
The culture shock is equal parts hilarious and deeply heartbreaking. Let's talk hygiene. She has roommates, right? Normal American girls. And they are horrified because Tara does not wash her hands after using the bathroom.
Why would she? She grew up in a junkyard. Her hands were always covered in thick grease and dirt. Washing them seemed entirely futile.
Plus, her family did not believe in germs. They believed in God and herbs. She literally did not understand the germ theory of disease.
And the diet. She sees people drinking Diet Coke, and she is looking at them like they're shooting heroin in the living room.
She is judging them. That is the dark irony of it.
Yeah.
She thinks she is the righteous one, and they are the fallen sinners. She is more fundamentalist than the fundamentalists at BYU.
She is completely scandalized that her roommates do homework on Sunday because that is the Sabbath.
But the gap that really matters is not the hygiene or the soda, it is the knowledge gap. There are two moments here that really define what we mean by a deep dive into ignorance. First, the art history class.
Oh, this is so painful to read. She signs up for art history. She goes to the bookstore and buys the textbook. It is a huge, heavy, expensive book. She opens it, sees pictures of paintings, and assumes that is it.
She spends weeks just looking at the pictures.
She does not read the text. She does not know she is supposed to. She has never been in a formal class. She thinks learning art means literally looking at art.
She fails the first test miserably because she has no concept of academic study. She does not know the basic rules of the game.
But that is nothing, literally nothing, compared to the Holocaust incident.
Yeah.
This is the moment that makes you want to crawl under the table for her.
It is the absolute centerpiece of her freshman year. She is in a Western civilization class. The professor is lecturing. He shows a picture of a concentration camp. Tara raises her hand, and she asks sincerely, what is the Holocaust?
The room must have gone dead silent.
Ice cold. The professor freezes. The other students turn and just stare at her. They assume she is making a sick neo-Nazi joke. They think she is a blatant Holocaust denier.
But she is not denying it. She genuinely does not know what the word means.
Her parents never taught her. It was not in the so-called homeschooling curriculum. Jean was exclusively focused on the Founding Fathers, the Illuminati, and the end of the world.
The 20th century atrocities, World War II history. It was just a blank space, a complete void.
Tara writes that this moment profoundly traumatized her. It was not just acute embarrassment, it was the realization of how deep the chasm really was.
She realized, I am not just uneducated. I am living in a fundamentally different reality than these people. They know the collective history of the human race, and I only know the history of my father's paranoia.
And that is the crux of the book. Education for her was not just adding facts to a pile. It was not just, oh, now I know about the Holocaust. It was realizing the pile she had was built entirely on sand.
She had to dismantle her entire worldview to make room for actual truth. This is what we mean by epistemic violence. Her upbringing had completely robbed her of the basic shared knowledge of humanity.
Now, while she is struggling to catch up academically at BYU, there is a very dark shadow looming over her. She goes home to visit, and we have to talk about the darkness waiting for her there. We have to talk about Sean.
Sean is the second oldest brother. And this brings us to the most difficult part of the narrative, the physical and psychological abuse.
Sean is violent, he is erratic, and he specifically targets Tara.
He has this horrific thing he calls the game. It sounds innocuous, but it is straight up torture. He pins her down, he twists her wrist violently behind her back, he puts her in a chokehold.
And he does it until something actually snaps or cracks. He forces her to admit things, to say she's a whore simply for wearing standard teenage clothes or a little bit of lip gloss.
It is about pure humiliation. It is about total dominance and the family's reaction to this.
Total denial, minimization. There is a scene in a grocery store parking lot that is just burned into my brain. Sean drags her by her hair out of the car. He kicks her. He is brutally beating her in public.
And the father, Geen, is sitting right there in the driver's seat.
And he does absolutely nothing.
He treats it like a minor sibling squabble. He minimizes it completely. He says kids will be kids, or he suggests that Tara somehow provoked it. But we also have to add critical context here. Sean, too, has a severe brain injury.
Of course he does. It is a recurring tragic theme.
Sean fell from a pallet at work. A massive fall, 12 feet or more directly onto his head. Severe head trauma. And again, no hospital visit. They treated him with herbs and tinctures.
After that fall, his volatility just skyrocketed. It is a tragic cycle of untreated trauma leading directly to more trauma.
But Tara makes a crucial intellectual connection regarding Sean's behavior, and it involves his use of the N-word.
This is where her formal education really starts to arm her against her family. Shetta starts calling her a nigger. He uses it constantly. Nigger, fetch me the wrench. Nigger, do this.
Which is horrific on its own. But at this point, Tara is taking advanced history classes at college. She is reading deeply about the civil rights movement. She's reading about Rosa Parks, Emmett Till, Martin Luther King Jr.
And she has an absolute epiphany. She realizes that Sean is not just using a slur to be mean or edgy. He is using a systematic tool of dehumanization.
He is using language to permanently fix her in a lower status, to make her other, to make her an object that he can entirely control.
She realizes her family is blindly reenacting a history of oppression that they do not even understand. They are participating in a legacy of brutality.
Exactly. She finally sees the mechanism of power, and that gives her the critical language to understand what is happening to her. It is not just Sean is annoying or mean. It is Sean is a tyrant.
It moves the conflict from the merely personal to the political, or at least the structural.
So she tries to fight back. Not physically. She knows she cannot win that.
Yes.
But with the truth. She confronts her parents. She tells them, Sean is hurting me. He is dangerous. You need to do something.
And this leads directly to the gaslighting, the funhouse mirror. Her father's response is to deny reality completely. He says it never happened, or that Tara is remembering it wrong.
Or, and this is the weaponized theology coming out again, that Tara has a bad spirit, and that is the real reason why she is lying.
It is the memory that was not real all over again, but in reverse. The first memory we talked about, the mother being shot, was a fake event treated as completely real. Now, real events, the brutal abuse, are being treated as fake.
It is maddening. It totally destabilizes her sanity.
Right.
And the mother, Faye. This is the real tragedy of the dynamic. Privately, she admits it. She tells Tara, I know, he has a rage. I should have protected you.
She validates Tara in the quiet of the kitchen, which gives Tara so much hope. She thinks, okay, Mom is finally on my side. We can fix this.
But publicly,
Hmm.
in front of the father, she stays completely silent. Or worse, she explicitly sides with the men. She validates the father's false reality just to keep the peace. She sacrifices her daughter's sanity to save her own marriage.
It is brutal. It is not just about learning history anymore. It is about learning to trust your own perception of reality when absolutely everyone you love is telling you you are crazy.
Which brings us to the real transformation. Because despite all this, or maybe because of the immense pressure of it, Tara absolutely excels at university. She meets a professor, Dr. Carey, at BYU.
He sees something special in her. He sees the raw intellect. He encourages her to apply for a highly competitive study abroad program at Cambridge University in England.
From the scrapyard to Cambridge, it is a massive leap. But she feels like a total fraud, does she not?
Oh, the imposter syndrome is completely off the charts. She calls herself a roofer. She feels like she is whoring after man's knowledge, just like her father warned her about.
There's this cinematic scene at Cambridge where she climbs out onto the chapel roof. It is incredibly steep, it is very high, it is extremely dangerous, it is 100 feet up in the air.
Dr. Carey is watching her from the ground, totally terrified. But Tara, she is perfectly calm. She is walking around up there like it is nothing.
It perfectly highlights the contrast within her. She has immense physical courage, she survived the junkyard, the severe car crashes, the physical abuse, but she has zero intellectual security.
She is brave with her body, but terrified with her mind.
And Dr. Carey gives her the gold speech. It is honestly one of the most beautiful passages in the entire book. He confronts her about her deep insecurity.
He tells her, you are not fool's gold, shining only under a particular light. You are gold, and returning to BYU or even to that mountain will not change who you are.
He is telling her that her worth is entirely intrinsic. It is not about the fancy clothes or the refined accent or the prestigious degree. It is her.
He is telling her that the junkyard did not break her, and Cambridge will not fix her. She is already whole. She just has to finally believe it.
And this gives her the necessary confidence to keep going. She really starts to engage with philosophy. She discovers a political philosopher named Isaiah Berlin. And this is the intellectual key that unlocks her entire family dynamic.
We need to spend a minute on this because it is so profound.
Okay, let's break it down. Isaiah Berlin, two concepts of liberty.
Lay it on me. Negative liberty versus positive liberty.
Right. So Berlin talks about two distinctly different types of freedom. First, there is negative liberty. This is freedom from external constraints. It is the idea that the government cannot stop you, no one can tell you what to do. It is essentially, leave me alone.
This is exactly her father's ideology.
Exactly. Gene is the absolute king of negative liberty. Get off my land. Do not make me send my kids to your schools. Do not make me wear a seatbelt. He thinks he is the freest man on earth because no government agent is bossing him around.
Okay. And the other concept?
Positive liberty. This is freedom from internal constraints. It is self-mastery. It is freedom from delusion, from ignorance, from irrational, paralyzing fear. It is the ability to actually be the author of your own life, to make rational choices based on reality.
And that is the aha moment for her. She realizes her father has negative liberty. Nobody is bossing him around, but he is a complete slave to his own paranoia. He has no positive liberty whatsoever.
Precisely. He is controlled by his inner demons. He is controlled by his fear of the Illuminati and the feds. And she realizes that true education is the path to positive liberty.
It is the way to take back control of her own mind. If she stays ignorant, she stays a slave to his fears. If she gets educated, she gains the power to actually write her own story.
She also dives deeply into feminism. She reads Mary Wollstonecraft and John Stuart Mill. And she realizes that her whole life, she has been told her natural biological desire is to be a mother and a submissive wife.
And she learns that this might just be a social construct, that what she thought was immutable nature was actually just intense training.
She realizes she can choose an entirely different path. It is not that being a mother is inherently bad, it is that she was never given the choice to be anything else.
So she earns her PhD, She writes her complex dissertation on Mormonism as an intellectual movement. She officially becomes Dr. Westover. But the bill finally comes due. The severing.
You cannot live in two opposing realities forever. You cannot be Dr. Westover in Cambridge and the obedient, gaslit daughter in Idaho at the very same time. She returns home after studying at Harvard and Cambridge.
She tries to address the abuse one last time. She tries to hold Sean accountable and get her parents to finally acknowledge the bipolar reality of her father.
And the father offers her a solution. He wants to give her a priesthood blessing.
This is a totally weaponized ritual. In their faith, a blessing is a beautiful healing act. But Jean twists it into a trap. He offers to heal her. But the core premise of the healing is that she is actively possessed by demons.
And the proof of her demonic possession is that she claims Sean abused her.
So, if I understand this correctly, to accept the blessing, to accept her father's love, she has to admit she is literally insane. She has to admit she is lying about the abuse.
It is a devastating psychological trap. If she accepts the blessing, she saves the relationship with her family, but completely loses her own mind. She validates his delusion.
As she refuses the blessing, she keeps her sanity but loses her family forever.
She refuses. She has to. She actively chooses her own mind.
And then comes the letter, the final ultimatum.
Her parents write to her. They formally demand she disavow her claims about Sean. They say the past must be shoveled 50 feet under and left to rot. It is demand for total, unquestioning submission.
And the mother flips. This is the part that hurts the absolute most. Faye, who had privately admitted Sean was dangerous in the kitchen that day, now denies everything.
She writes a letter entirely siding with the father. She betrays Tara to save herself.
It is the final nail in the coffin. Tara realizes she has zero allies in that house.
And the family completely splits. The brothers who work for the father, who depend on him financially for their survival, side with the parents. They permanently cut Tara off.
They kind of have to, right? To support Tara is to lose their livelihood and their salvation in the eyes of the patriarch.
It is an economic and spiritual embargo. But thankfully, not everyone leaves her. Tyler stands by her.
Tyler and Richard and Tony. The brothers who got out, the ones who went to college or had some physical distance from the mountain, they validate her. They look at her and say, I believe you.
And that validation is absolutely everything. It keeps her from thinking she is entirely crazy. It anchors her in the real world.
But the cost is just staggering. She loses the mountain. She loses her parents. She loses half her siblings. She effectively becomes an orphan with living parents.
She loses her entire foundational world.
Yeah.
But she gains her sanity. She gains her own voice. She gains the ability to actually trust her own memories.
So as we wrap up today, we have to ask the really big question. What is educated? What does the title actually mean in the broad context of this book?
Tara reflects on this beautifully in the final chapter. She asks if she has become a completely different person from the little girl in the junkyard. And she concludes that it was not about the degree.
It was not about going to Cambridge. It was not about knowing historical dates or mathematical formulas.
No. She says, I could yield to my father, or I could trust myself. You could call this selfhood many things. Transformation, metamorphosis, falsity, betrayal. I call it an education.
That is the core of it. Education is not just knowing facts. It is the arduous process of self-creation. It is the reconstruction of experience.
It is looking at your past, truly understanding it, and then deciding for yourself what is actually true. It is the immense courage to say, this is my life and this is what happened, even if the people you love desperately disagree.
It is incredibly powerful stuff. It completely redefines what it means to actually learn.
If I can leave the listener with a final provocation, consider this. How much of your own reality, the things you think are absolute solid truths, the things you believe about yourself, are just stories told to you by people you love?
Oof. That is a heavy question to ponder.
It is. But Educated teaches us that true education requires the profound courage to dismantle those inherited stories. It challenges us to ask, who are you really, if you take away the narrative your family handed to you?
It is a terrifying question to face, but asking it might be the only way to be truly positively free.
Exactly, the reconstruction of experience.
I love that phrase so much. Thank you for taking this deep dive with us into the difficult, beautiful, and highly necessary work of Tara Westover.
It was a true privilege.
And to you listening, thanks for being here with us. We will see you on the next deep dive.
Goodbye.